Hi, I'm Steve Baertschi, and I'm a chemist and a pharmaceutical scientist, and I'm a visiting scholar here this week at Reasons to Believe, and I'm very honored by that. Today, I want to talk about one attribute of God. God is pure. The reason I want to talk about that is because I have worked in the pharmaceutical industry, and much of my much of my job has been to evaluate impurities in drugs and to try to help develop means for creating pure, stable drugs that remain pure throughout their shelf life. And there's a reason why we want pure drugs, and let me trace back historically to some of the reasons. In 1906, the Pure Food and Drug Act was passed, and that was in order to ensure to the people of America that food and drugs would be actually what they say they are, and that there weren't other ingredients that were unknown. And it was designed to try to prevent a certain level of quackery and false advertising. In 1937, there is a drug called sulfanilamide, and there was a significant event that happened, a terrible tragedy, where 107 people died because sulfanilamide, an antibiotic, was given to people with diethylene glycol as the solution. And it turns out that diethylene glycol is toxic to humans when ingested in large amounts. And 107 people died, including many children. And as a result of that, there was an act that was the 1938 Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act was passed to ensure that drugs were safe. In the early 1960s, there was another significant event. There was thousands of children born with birth defects from thalidomide for morning sickness. So thalidomide is a sedative that was used to help pregnant mothers get over the morning sickness, and unfortunately it created it was teratogenic, and there was a problem with the offspring from mothers who had taken this drug. On the screen, I have the molecular structures of thalidomide, and they are enantiomers, or mirror images. There were two forms, both mirror images in the drug, and it turns out that one of the mirror images is responsible for the teratogenicity that led to birth defects like undeveloped limbs and arms in children. Fortunately, in the U.S., it was never approved, and so the side effects were minimized in the U.S. due to an astute FDA regulator who refused to approve the drug because of the incomplete toxicity studies. In 1982, there was another significant event. There was cyanide poisoning of Tylenol, and Tylenol is a common drug that we use for pain medication, but it was tampered. Somebody intentionally laced acetaminophen or Tylenol capsules with potassium cyanide, resulting in the deaths of at least 7 people. So, the idea of a drug not being pure can lead to all kinds of problems, including death. In 1989, there was another significant event that happened in tryptophan supplements, where there were a particular disease that started showing up in people that were using tryptophan, and it was a serious illnesses and leading to over 1,500 serious illnesses and more than 36 deaths. And they tracked this down to 6 outside of the U.S. manufacturers, and eventually determined as best they could that it appears to be a trace impurity that was present in these L-tryptophan supplements that led to this side effect. And so the impurity that was formed, and you can see the structures if you're a chemist and you want to look at it a little longer, but you can see what happened, and that structure is believed to have been the responsible culprit, which lets you know that even low levels of impurities can cause significant side effects at times. In 2008, there was another significant event where the anticoagulant heparin is widely used in the hospitals as an IV, and it was laced with something that was a financial thing. In other words, the manufacturers, in this case, it happened to be in China, but they were adding another ingredient, chondroitin sulfate, because it was much cheaper to produce. And when you did tests for it, it would look like, to the test results, it would look like it was heparin. So they were lowering the amounts of heparin to make more money, and it resulted in likely 81 deaths, and this is an intentional adulteration. So you can see impurities can be introduced inadvertently, accidentally, or intentionally. In 2018, there was a significant event that happened in the pharmaceutical industry where an impurity, an N-nitrosamine impurity, was detected in valsartan, a statin drug. And this is a toxic impurity, but it was at extremely low levels, and there have been no identified illnesses or deaths or side effects, but it gained worldwide concern, and it has transformed the industry quite a bit into terms of looking for N-nitrosamines and preventing this kind of impurity from being introduced. It was advertised as a chemical that was used in rocket fuel, so people hear that they're being poisoned with rocket fuel get greatly concerned about the purity of their drugs. The bottom line of all these examples are to say that there are reasons, and important reasons, for drugs to be pure, free from toxic impurities, and that's sort of obvious to us, but it's all the more obvious when we have examples of real problems resulting from impurities in what should be pure drugs. And because of that background of mine, it made me think about the one aspect of God, the fact that God is pure. God is pure to the highest extent. He's free from anything of a different, inferior, or contaminating kind. That's sort of the textbook dictionary definition, free from anything different, inferior, or contaminating. We know that God is fully righteous, sinless, free of any imperfection, any evil. We also learn from the Bible that God is light, which means there's an absence of any darkness. And because of that level of impurity, we know that God is holy. He's whole and set apart. And because of that being set apart, we are separated from him because we are not pure and holy. In some verses that relate to that, in Habakkuk, it says, your eyes, in referring to God, your eyes are too pure to look on evil. You cannot tolerate wrongdoing. In 1 John 1:5 says, God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. So light being completely pure, no darkness at all. And it says in Timothy that God, who alone is immortal and who lives in unapproachable light. So we can see that because of the purity of God, he cannot tolerate or look upon any impurity or sin or evil. So how do we have relationship with him? How can we have the purity needed to be part of and close to and in the presence of God? It says in 1 John 1:7, if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and Jesus, his son, purifies us from all sin. So that purity comes only from walking in the light through Jesus, who is the light. And it says in Matthew 5:8, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And in John 2 and 3, it says, but we know that when Christ appears, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. All who have this hope in him purify themselves, just as he is pure. As a chemist, my role has been to try to create and pursue pure drugs, free from any impurities. As a Christian, I'm called to pursue that which is pure. God is pure. I want to pursue God, and the way I can have fellowship with him is through Jesus, who removes all of the impurities and creates a pure and clean heart.